Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WREVA Electrifying News. I guess this is episode number 20, our August edition for 2022. Joining me as usual, we have Mr. Eric Stevens joining us from the Listowel area. How are you today, sir?
I'm wonderful, Mark. It's a beautiful day.
It definitely was. It definitely was. Not too much humidity, a little wind, lots of sun. That's how we like it.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. And also joining us, Mr. Ian Graham from downtown Kitchener. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. Beautiful day. I did lots of errands and stuff running around, but man, it was nice to do it without the humidity and just lots of sun. And yeah, it was great.
That's always best, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the best part of summer is when you get these kind of days, and a few of them in a row is just fantastic. So definitely looking forward to ending off the week with this type of weather as well. Well, we've got a deck for electrifying news. Let's get Ian to share the screen for us, and we'll get started.
All right. So here we are with our Electrifying News logo, and right into it. This is kind of interesting. It just came up in the last few days, and it's basically the possibility that Tesla could set up shop in Canada. And last week was the shareholders meeting, and Musk kind of hinted a little bit about possibly, being part Canadian to consider actually having this set up in Canada somewhere. And now there's little tidbits that are starting to come up. And I think it'd be interesting to see if, especially for Ontario, with everything that's kind of being done for the factories, and that the Ford government is pushing actually with EVs to see what could happen with Tesla. I think it would be a real boom to Canada and to Ontario for that matter. And of course, the question comes about, of course, is if it did come to Canada and it did come to Ontario, is where they would set up shop. And I'm kind of bringing that up partly because, we have Sudbury with the nickel mining, and whether would they be closer to Sudbury with that aspect of things for battery production, or would they stay closer to Southern Ontario, closer to the border? Who knows? It's an interesting kind of to see what's going to happen that way if it does happen.
Yeah, if it even does happen, but I can guarantee that if it is set up somewhere in Ontario or Canada, they are definitely going to place it near a population density because they've run into this in the past with their GigaFactory in Nevada, where they just can't get the number of workers that they want at the location because it is remote. So I think they've learned that with their first factory, or their, I guess, second, is that they need the population to be able to travel effortlessly to the work site in order for them to get a high amount of workers on site. So my guess, it would definitely be around a population center to allow them to do that. And it was kind of interesting, you mentioned that Ontario's in the mix here, and that's because we're getting alerts from the Ontario government because there is a requirement that when businesses are working or in discussion with the Ontario government, that information has to be transparent. So there's no backroom deals going on that the public won't be privy to. So this extra leak of information is coming right from the government with their requirement to disclose some of the talks that they've had with industry, and in this case, Tesla.
Yeah, and this news doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, Ontario is a huge automotive hub. Some people might not realize just how big Ontario is to the automotive industry. Even next to the U.S., Ontario is, in many ways, and times have been even larger than the state of Michigan for vehicle production and stuff like that. And we have a huge automotive supply base in Ontario. Not only that, but there's massive automation expertise here in Ontario for setting up vehicle automation processes and stuff like that. So Ontario, there's just a huge amount of expertise and a huge amount of automotive supply. So the logistics just make a lot of sense here. On top of that, the Canadian dollar does play favorably actually to manufacturers usually in Ontario as well. So, typically there's been a lot of studies out there about cost to produce cars in Ontario compared to some other jurisdictions, but they usually wait for the Canadian dollar to be high to bring those studies out.
Yeah.
But when the Canadian dollar is running around its normal annual average, there's usually a cost advantage to producing vehicles in Ontario. So, if I was going to say, if I was placing a factory in Ontario, the place I'd put it is probably close to London. Ontario is where my bet would be, is somewhere in that area because it's close to the 401 and 402 corridors, easy access to the U.S., and there's a good labor pool there for manufacturing. So that would be my guess. And then, of course, on top of that now, as others have mentioned, we do have a huge, battery supply, minerals deposits here in Ontario and Quebec as well too. So the supply chain is very short for a lot of components and a lot of stuff here in Ontario. So there's a lot of good logic to this.
You didn't think that they put it in wine country? I know we got tequila and lots of land that way.
Are you implying some liquid lunches there, Ian?
Yeah. Exactly. It's close to Fort Erie and Niagara Falls, and
I'm not sure that would improve the build quality at Tesla too much.
Yeah. Now we know what the quality was, what it was when they were having a few issues. Okay, now we got it. There's at least a bit of an excuse there. But I think actually I agree with you. I think somewhere around like between Woodstock, London, I think would make a lot of sense. I don't know that going closer to Toronto makes much sense. Like with Ford being in Oakville, Oshawa with GM, I think you're right. Like it's you've got the 402, 401, and logistically, yeah, I could see that working. It would really develop a lot of communities.
Yeah, and there's already a couple factories in that area. I mean, Toyota has a plant in Woodstock. GM has a factory in Ingersoll. So I would imagine maybe someplace maybe closer to St. Thomas or something like that might be, because Ford used to have a factory in St. Thomas many years ago, and that might be a good site for something like that.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. All right, moving on. Mark, if you want to lead us off with this, this kind
of ties in to kind of the Tesla story as well, because in the U.S., a recent bill is on its way to being passed. It's gone through the different committees, and this, of course, is part of the Build Back Better plan in the U.S. It's an addition to it, where the Biden administration was trying to get through a number of clean energy wins under their belt, and part of this incentive that they're putting out there, wind turbines, solar, lowering, of course, pollution, but there's also an EV component in this as well, where they're bringing back the $7,500 credit for EVs, which they currently have, but of course Tesla and GM have used up those credits because there was a 200,000 vehicle cap. Well, this new incentive they're trying to roll out is going to eliminate the incentive number and allow it to happen for 10 years. And on top of it, they've built in some requirements to make the bill, I would say, target industry to bring industry back into the United States, if not North America. And the reason I'm bringing this up, not that we as Canadians get any use out of this actual incentive, but what is nice here is that the bill used to be just American centric. So everything had to be built in America. But with this new bill, they've changed the wording. So now it's North American. So that includes Canada and Mexico in this. Whereas before, it was looking like if the car was built in Canada or partially built in Canada or Mexico, that the part of the incentive wouldn't work for the American people. So this is a thing that the Trudeau government has started fighting immediately once they heard that this was the direction it was heading. And they actually got to the point where they were planning on actually they were going to challenge it in court because of the free trade agreement and the auto pact that we already had signed with the United States. They were going to take this to court, and they let the Americans know that there was going to be a fight on their hands based on this. So it looks like the Biden administration weighed what was possible and decided to roll this back a little bit and allow North American vehicles to qualify. And now there's a number of things that, how much percentage of the minerals are mined in North America, the manufacturing, all this is still kind of in flux. It's not completely nailed down as to what the requirements are. So there's a lot of confusion in the US right now as to what vehicles will be able to apply for the incentive and where they won't. But it is starting to take shape, and we believe that this is going to be signed by Biden within the next 7 days or so. So this is something that we'll have to keep our eye on. It is changing a little bit, but we believe that most of this is going to come into play. The other bonus is of course, that with Canadian companies able to participate in this, the making of parts in Canada, some assembly in Canada, even the production of a vehicle in Canada is going to allow it to qualify for this. So there wasn't going to be the stopping of, a company from, Ford in Oakville, for example, for rolling ahead by building EVs there. If they weren't going to qualify for anything in the United States, Ford might have said, you know what, we're not going to put it in Oakville, we're going to put it in Michigan, so that at least we know that it all qualifies. But with this new wording in the bill with North American, it looks like it's going to allow Canada to participate in this, and that's certainly good for Canadian jobs.
Oh yeah, I think Chrystia Freeland. She may be short, but she's feisty, and I remember seeing when this started to come about. Trudeau had talked about this, and then Chrystia Freeland, and they were right away just no, this is not good for Canadian auto industry. We have to get on top of this, and you know what? Good for them. And unfortunate that they had to sort of threaten going to court and everything that way. But I think, our relations with U.S. and Canada, we've had those things kind of come up here and there, and we've always seemed to be able to work them out because we know it's good partnership with everything, and also for that matter with Mexico too. I think that's it's going to be interesting because I do go to Mexico, and Eric does, I know yourself as well, with some of your business trips, to see how this does expand into Mexico as well, not just for manufacturing, but maybe even the adoption of electric vehicles in Mexico. I know when I'm down there, I do see the Teslas, but and occasional Nissan Leafs, but I think this might open up a lot more things as well.
Yeah. And, I think because of, especially with the free trade agreement we have, I think that the original wording of the proposal that came out of this certainly prompted possible legal challenges that may have conflicted with the free trade agreement. So a little bit of lobbying in conjunction with, hey, this we have a free trade agreement here. Let's not start passing legislation that might run against that as well, too. And the thing I do like is this new legislation from the U.S. I like how they're transitioning from a tax credit to more of a rebate that can be applied at point of sale, dealer point of sale, similar to how we have it here in Canada. I think that'll be a big positive too for a lot of people in the U.S. And I think they've restructured this in a way that it'll be a big benefit to a lot of people there as well too.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that that this was going, that this is going to actually promote building in North America. I hope some of that manufacturing that has been lost to China, for example, some of that expertise comes back and some of the wording in this bill is certainly pointing towards that. They're trying to encourage companies to build in North America as opposed to receiving imports from outside of North America. So, well, that remains to be seen if it's going to be successful.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That's a great point on that as well, because the competition in China is becoming that much more prevalent and interesting.
Yeah, and I've been even seeing rumors of other companies now looking at building in North America as well too, where historically they haven't produced cars in North America. So,
yeah. All right, Eric, I'll let you take this away. This is talking about building. Here we go.
Yeah, so Umicore. So this is another battery materials factory. So in the past we've talked about how POSCO and a couple other companies in joint venture with them, such as General Motors, were building a cathode active material facility in Quebec. Well, now this is another announcement for another cathode active materials facility located just outside of Kingston, 1.5 billion facility that's supposed to be able to support up to 1 million vehicles of EV production. So this is, again, deepening the infrastructure here in North America and putting this facility, relatively close. Kingston's not far from, Sudbury and a lot of the other mining communities in Quebec and Ontario. So it's a fairly strategically placed facility to help facilitate the, battery supply chain, and it certainly reinforces Canada as a hub for that. And in the article, they were talking, one of the ministers, Mr. Champagne, was talking about now, before they used to have to sell why Canada. Now they're saying now the big question is now how do we do business in Canada? So the narrative is changing a little bit, and a lot of companies are now trying to get in here to get access to a lot of the minerals that Canada can offer.
I find it interesting with Kingston as well that because in a previous podcast that we've done, also talking about the battery recycling, and Kingston also has that company, I think Li-Ion, opening up a shop there, and so not only you got the manufacturing, but now you got the recycling, and it's like, okay, this is becoming the hub of the batteries is Kingston. It may not be like we're mining necessarily, but this is the manufacturer, this is the recycling, and from that point it goes out to the auto manufacturers and that. So it's great news that we're seeing this, and I love the fact that the more this becomes prevalent, the more that people are going to start saying like, well, this is happening, and it's not just oh, I need to buy an electric vehicle. This manufacturer's happening, which means the technology is only going to keep getting better. And you know what? I'm going to probably have to look into this sooner than later. So it's just a win-win all around.
Yep, definitely.
All right. So this is interesting. Basically, I go up to the area of Sudbury, and I've talked to different employees at Valet, and they've mentioned to me that their machinery becoming more and more electrified and less internal combustion, which in a mine, when you think about it, is like, it's one thing when you're outside. Now you're in a mine, and you're just spewing this stuff in the actual mine, and it's great to see this company, Sandvik. And they're doing these kind of, I guess you call them mega machines in some respect. I'm sure for the kids, who grew up with toy trucks and dump trucks and all that stuff, this is going to be a lot of fun for them to see some of this. But this company is basically, they're supplying in Vancouver 20 battery electric vehicles for the copper zinc project. Which is basically in east central Saskatchewan, and they're looking at deliveries, not too far ahead, 2023 to 2025, and it's again comes back to this whole industry is becoming electrified. So we're talking again about the automotive industry happening within the 401 corridor to the battery production, but then now we're getting into the actual mining machines, and now there's contracts there. So more and more, it's like this whole industry, you can just see all the connecting dots and how, you know, money's being put into this, contracts are being made. This is what's happening for the future. And in Saskatchewan, I think this is a real, you know, boom for them as well. Again, it's just, you know, Saskatchewan's that kind of like lost, forgotten province, I think, in some respects. You know, we hear so much about Ontario, Alberta, and BC, and then Quebec, but Saskatchewan's kind of like, you know, and Manitoba to a certain point as well. So this is great to see. Great news.
Yeah. I think that a big mover of this is the ability to not have to deal with the after effects of an internal combustion engine, which of course the pollution, the CO2, the particulates in the air, all are a big thing when you're underground inside a closed cavern. So this of course is the big win with electric vehicles, besides their ability to have extra torque and be able to perform without having to fuel up with liquid fuel, is the exhaust goes away. And I think in a mining operation, that has got to be safety factor number one, to remove some of the exhaust out of those caverns. To have machines that don't produce it is got to be a huge win for everyone in the mine.
Yeah, absolutely. These machines are cleaner. They're also quieter. So you're not producing as much noise in these sometimes confined, somewhat confined spaces. Yeah. And of course, the cost of operation, maintenance, and then on top of that, you know, a lot of people for a long time, they're always talking about, one of the detractions for EVs is, well, have you seen the supply chain? Have you seen the mining? Well, this is about cleaning up the supply chain and stuff like that. This is why EVs only get cleaner going forward, is because, you know, as we clean up the grid, as we clean up the supply chain and everything starts to electrify, EVs only get cleaner as the future goes along. So this is just a piece of that puzzle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One thing I did find interesting in looking into this as well is that some of the vehicles are full battery electric, but then some are actually tethered. And depending on, I think, on how far they actually have to go and what they're doing. So I think if a machine is basically, you know, chopping stuff down, it's not really going to be going that far distance-wise. So it makes a lot more sense to just tether it, as opposed to, say, a dump truck, which, you know, okay, we've got the stuff, we need to move it. Now we got to put it into like a full battery so it doesn't have that aspect on it. But again, it's just being smart about it all, on that part of it. Yeah, I'm sure cost-wise, it probably makes a big difference on that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. So, talking about more mining in Canada.
Yeah, so this was another story here of a similar idea too. This is another Canadian company, Odyssey Mine, this is in Quebec, and they are, you know, it's a growing mine that mines gold actually. So this is a gold mine, but they are also purchasing a number of electrified equipment as well too to help electrify their operations and clean that up.
Yeah, I can see certainly as mining companies start to move in this direction, their peers are watching, because everyone's looking to get a better bottom line on the balance sheet. And if they start to notice that there's a competitive advantage with maintenance, with cost to run, then I can see them all switching to this if it's something that works in their particular operations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, again, with you're saying, like, where is this going and people are watching us, I think also the workers that are, you know, now being put in with this type of equipment, that's just going to only spread word of mouth as well, in terms of like how it operates and their experiences with something like this as well. And I think, you know, I'd be interested in knowing what the positive and negative experiences would be from the actual workers and who operate this machinery. My guess is that they would probably more than likely like, no, this is awesome. like you mentioned, no fumes, and I can't see loss of power on a lot of this stuff either. But yeah, I think this is also helping with more in the belief system, if you want to say, getting people to understand this. All right, from mining to installing charging stations. And this is, it's good to see. This is an oil company that's looking future-wise to, and
This
especially too by 2055. Like that's a lot of chargers.
This is another oil company that's looking to maybe hedge their bet on the future, what it holds for them as an energy company. And Shell has announced that they'll be installing 79 electric vehicle charging points along major corridors between Ontario and British Columbia. They also planned outside of the 79 announced to be complete by 2023. They're also saying they'd like to have 500 chargers across the country by 2025. So this is another energy group that is getting into the game of EV charging, similar to, say, Petro-Canada or some of the third-party chargers out there like Flow or ChargePoint. This is another group that I would say that with this announcement and the money that would have to be put behind it is starting to notice that EVs are probably going to be a good part of the future going forward. And instead of not participating, why would they not install a few chargers at different locations to make their franchisees of stations happy that we've got people that are spending more time at those stations charging up their vehicles and can use the facilities at those stations and purchase goods and foods for their journey. So it just makes a lot of sense that the infrastructure is already there with some of these stations. They're placed already in proper spots just off highway routes typically. And this is going to allow them to participate in the electric future as well by not really having to invest a whole lot of money because they already have the sites. They already have the routes set and all they have to do is install reliable charging and have some sort of system in place to track the maintenance of those chargers to make sure that they're up and operational and don't become out of disrepair. So that's really what they're going to have to focus on, and it's going to be a new business for them. So there's probably going to be some speed bumps along the way, but the more that are into this charging game, the better for us to consider